What's up, guys? Are you ready for a killer workout? Because it's time for another episode of Damien Ruins Horror Movies. I'm Damien. And as usual, this episode is brought to you by Cool Dude Inc. So go down to the description, click the link, and make yourself look good. Stick around to the end where we're going to have survival tips, the Badass Award, and final thoughts. But first, we're going to kick it off with the Whiskey Bats, who you can find on iTunes, Spotify, and if you go down to the description, there's a link to their YouTube channel. So grab your protein shakes and let's get this started. This film was directed by David A. Pryor, and it was originally called Aerobicide. He's also directed a bunch of other films you never heard of, but it's got a lot of the same actors in it. It opens with a chick named Valerie. She's a model, and she gets a gig, but she's supposed to have a tan, so she goes to a tanning salon, which I didn't even know they had back then. But then she gets locked in it and fried, Final Destination 3 style. Next we go to Rhonda's workout gym. And according to IMDb, like 2 years have passed. But according to Lieutenant Morgan, who we haven't yet met, it's like 5 years later. Either way, there's no footer at the bottom to indicate any passage of time. Most of the scenes in this film are segued by long aerobic montages. And like the score in this movie is not bad, but the soundtrack is fucking horrible. And a big meathead named Jimmy hits on Rhonda. She's the owner, hence the name Rhonda's Workout Gym. And she kind of blows him off, and we get our first red herring. But then Rhonda's pissed because Jamie showed up late for work. And she had to teach her class for her. So Jamie shows up, and we get some weird, lesbian vibe action going. And Jamie says she'll make it up to her by taking her out for dinner. Maybe that's why she blew Jimmy off. And that night, we get our first kill. A girl who happens to be black. She's killed with a giant safety pin, which was weird. But the murder weapon found next to her body in the locker is a knitting needle, and it's Diane's locker. And somehow, even though there's a murder and everybody knows about it, the gym is still open the next day, and everybody works out like nothing happened.
No shit. No shit. Happened right here last night.
A new guy shows up, Chuck Dawson. He was hired by Rhonda's business partner, and she wants nothing to do with him. And suddenly it seems like she has a problem with everybody. But she definitely doesn't like Chuck Dawson. In the parking lot, Chuck Dawson meets Meathead Jimmy. And they have a little street fight out in the parking lot, and suddenly it's Ken versus Ryu. And Ken gets the upper hand. Afterwards, he meets Debbie, and she is fine. And he goes to her house and interrogates her in her backyard over some Pepsis. And for some reason, there's a phone out there. It looks like a house phone, but it's in the backyard, and he makes a phone call. Diane's the one whose locker the body was found in. She's kind of set up as our next red herring, but I don't know, she's not a main character at all. And it shows her, she's kind of awkward and weird. But I don't know, not the killer type or anything. And she hits on Jimmy and he totally blows her off. That night, Lieutenant Morgan goes to her house, but he's not quite there in time to stop her from being murdered by a large safety pin, not a knitting needle. So with her being dead, that kind of takes her off our suspect list. And proves that the knitting needle was not the murder weapon in the first place. And more murders happen. Some graffiti artists get theirs. And then 2 guys get killed at the gym during gym hours. And Tommy, the guy who's got a big crush on Jamie, he finds the bodies. And Chuck sees him with the bodies, assumes he's the killer, and Chuck just Street Fighter 2's his ass. And after Tommy gets beat the fuck up, he has a fever dream where Jamie's coming on to him and we get some boobies! And then Jimmy comes in and kills Jamie, which up until this point in the movie, I thought Jimmy and Tommy were the same dude. They look just like each other, but it's a dream. Jimmy did not kill Jamie. Jamie's still alive at this point. Rhonda's starting to feel the pressure. Gym members are either dying or canceling their memberships. And Jimmy can't take the hint that Rhonda doesn't like him. Because I think Rhonda doesn't like dudes. That's my own theory.
What? It just teach the class to stop showing off your tits and tight little ass. Got it?
That night, Chuck breaks into Jimmy's place. And he finds an obsessive amount of photos of Rhonda, like, hanging on his wall. Like, you know, some serious stalker shit. Because Chuck thinks Jimmy's the killer. So Chuck sees all these pictures, these obsessive photos of Rhonda, and he thinks, shit, she's the next victim. So he heads over to Rhonda's place, catches her night swimming. Instead of saving the day, he runs into Jimmy for round 2. And this time, Jimmy gets the best of him. Lieutenant Morgan figures out that Chuck isn't just a new employee. He's a private investigator who 21 Jump Streeted his way into the gym to find the murderer. Which happened very fast if you think about it. I mean, it was like, the girl dies, next day Chuck shows up. But regardless, Jimmy does not like Chuck. And the next day they have round 3. And Jimmy hits Chuck with his car. And then he stabs him with an ice pick or a screwdriver or something. And now Chuck is dead. As the film goes, we keep seeing this person who takes off a wig, putting on and off a wig. It's kind of like Darth Vader, like with his helmet, except it's a wig. His scalp's all burnt up and everything. It's Valerie, the girl from the tanning bed. She didn't die. She's alive. Except Valerie isn't Valerie. Valerie is Rhonda. And Lieutenant Morgan has figured it out. He had several suspects for these murders, but he didn't have a motive until now, as he realized Rhonda is Valerie. She's alive and taking her frustrations out on beautiful California women, killing them one-on-one, and she's killing dudes too. They don't really explain why. So I get why you're jealous of the girls, but you're also killing dudes. I mean, she's pretty 50-50 at this point. And she's rejecting, I guess she has to reject Jimmy, because otherwise, if Jimmy saw her body, he'd be like, ugh. She confesses to Lieutenant Morgan that she is Valerie. She had her name legally changed, and she takes off her shirt, and we get some Kentucky Fried Boobies! And he's like, dude, I didn't need to see that. But that still doesn't prove she's doing it. Now he has motive, but he doesn't have proof. And as he's taking her downtown, he gets a call saying that Chuck's dead. He finds out Jimmy killed Chuck, making it look like Jimmy is the killer. So his hands are kind of tied at this point. He's got to let Rhonda go. But Jimmy's not in custody. He goes back to the gym and he sees Rhonda fresh out of the shower. But instead of every teenage boy's fantasy, he sees her burn up body, and we get some more Kentucky Fried Boobies! And before he gets a chance to be completely horrified, she shoots him 5 times. Which is a little excessive. And he's still alive. But it raises the question, did he know? I mean, how could you be stalking somebody and taking all those pictures and not... Was he taking the fall for her, like, out of love? Because if he's stalking her, he's taking those pictures, he has to know she's burnt up. He's got to know her routine. So I think, like, Jimmy really liked her. But it's not until that fatal bullet that she puts in him that he finds out she is, in fact, a lesbian. That's speculation, but... Not that Jimmy's a catch, I'm just saying. The next day, Lieutenant Morgan takes Rhonda for a drive out to the country. And they go for a walk with a shovel. And instead of just like doing her in, he makes the mistake that usually only villains make. He has to explain where he's coming from. As if he knows he's in a movie. As if he knows he has to fill the viewer in. And he goes on this long tirade. And she fucking kills him. And she escapes. And I don't know how she got off the hook for that. Like, they were in a remote area. So I guess he just, like, disappeared and nobody knew what happened. But, like, the papers have her painted as a hero. They think she killed Jimmy in self-defense. They think Jimmy's the killer. So Jimmy takes the fall for all that, just like he kind of, I think, did on purpose. But he didn't realize he'd be letting her off the hook and she was going to kill him. And she goes back to the gym like nothing ever happened. And instead of losing customers, she gains customers. Everybody thinks she's a hero. She's this strong woman who survived, who went up against the odds. Nobody knows that 70% of her body's burnt up. And that's why the Badass Award goes to Rhonda, a.k.a. Valerie. Despite the fact that she's a bad guy, because anyone who knows the truth is dead. She got away with murder and even spun around to walk out the hero, and now she's more successful than ever. I'm surprised they didn't make a sequel. This film didn't really feel that much like a horror movie. It felt more like a primetime cop drama from like the early 80s. And that's the problem when like the horror movie cop is too good. It turns into like a cop show. Like with that movie When a Stranger Calls, that it had that same vibe where it's like, am I watching a cop show? And Rhonda, normally killing all your customers would be a horrible business plan. It's like that quote from Ozzy Osbourne a long time ago. They asked him if he was making albums telling the fans to kill themselves. And he was like, well, I don't think it'd be a good idea to make an album telling your fans to kill themselves. I mean, after all, the follow-up wouldn't sell too well. When our identity is wrapped up in our physical appearance, it's a shame because no matter how beautiful, no matter how well you take care of yourself, your outer beauty has a shelf life. Physical beauty doesn't last. What did we learn? Survival tales.
Don't go to a gym where you know people are dying. If the lights go out while you're showering in public, don't investigate. Just get the fuck out of there. Don't bring a gun to a car fight. Don't graffiti somebody's gym. When you had the killer in custody, don't mansplain yourself into death, dummy.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash that like button and hit subscribe. And I'll keep doing this. I hope you come along for the ride. See you next time.